Hey there, this is your host, Dr. Lori Friesen, and you're listening to episode number 333 of Beginning Teacher Talk. Just because you're a beginning elementary teacher, there is no need for you to struggle like one. I'm dedicated to being the mentor for you that I wish I had when I first started teaching. In this podcast, we talk about all of the behind-the-scenes stuff about teaching you really need to know, but didn't learn when you were in university. And we share the most amazing resources, tips, and strategies out there so you can become the teacher you've always dreamed of being. Let's start the show. Well, hey there, my friends, and welcome back to another episode of the podcast. I hope that you're doing well. I hope that your year is off to a great start. I am especially enamored with this podcast episode, not only because we're going to talk about how to teach kids kindness in a very practical ways throughout the day and throughout the week and the year, but also this is episode number 333. Now, if you're into numerology in any way, the angel number 333 really holds some powerful significance. It's associated with femininity, with creativity, with intuition. And when this number comes into your life, you can think of it like a friendly love note to stop worrying so much. So if you're in a stressful situation that is causing you a lot of confusion, this number 333 is reminding you of how intuitively connected you are. And so if you've been experiencing some kind of unkindness in your life, maybe your students have been unkind to each other and it's really getting to you. Maybe they've been unkind to you, or maybe one of your peers has not been especially kind to you lately. You know how much it can ripple into all areas of your life and ruin your entire day and your entire week. And so on a very practical note, when we talk about classroom management, when kids are unkind to each other, that is going to cause explosive feelings. It's so hurtful when kids hurt each other. And when kids are feeling that way and they're treating each other that way, it's going to cause a lot of tension in your classroom, and it's going to make actually teaching very difficult, because we all know that if our hearts aren't engaged, if our hearts aren't okay, we can't learn. We're incapable of really learning. And this question actually came up inside our Classroom Management Club community recently, and it sparked a lot of great discussion around how can we help kids to be less mean to each other and to instead intentionally craft a community of respect and kindness. So I thought it would be a wonderful topic to talk about today, especially because it's February. Well, we're getting into February. We're getting into Random Acts of Kindness Week around the world. And so this is the perfect time to start talking about this. Now, although I'm going to give you some very quick and easy ways to encourage kindness this month, especially again, because this is the month of Random Acts of Kindness and Valentine's Day, kindness is one of those things that we really need to weave into our classrooms more than just 1 month of the year. And that's why a big part of why I created the SEL morning work and morning meetings curriculum that you get as a member of the Classroom Management Club. It's a very practical way for you to teach kids conflict resolution skills, empathy and compassion, and practical perspective taking. So we're going to talk about that today. So your students actually get daily opportunities to understand what this looks like in their everyday lives. So we can give kids the very practical tools they need to know what to do when problems and conflicts and big emotions happen every day in the classroom and in their lives outside of school. So if you aren't already a member of the club, I highly recommend that you check it out by signing up for my free class, your 5-step classroom management reset. Because if you're struggling with this in your classroom, and you have been for the first half of the year, there's no reason you can't change this now and start teaching your kids the very practical skills they need to know to manage big emotions and conflict, because this is just part of everyday life. And we all know as adults, if we don't learn this as kids, don't you wish you had access to that information as kids? We would have a very different culture if we could teach kids empathy and compassion. Oh, it'd be such a different game. But the other thing is that if we expect our kids to be kind to each other, we need to be modeling kindness for our kids. We need to be modeling empathy and compassion for our students as well. So we're going to talk about some very practical ways you can do that for your students without spending like a ton of money or effort. This isn't about spending money. We're going to talk about a few of those ideas today, but watch for part 2 of this series next week, because we're going to talk about even more simple and easy ways that we can model kindness and compassion for our students. So as with many things that we do in our classrooms to improve our practice, this is really more about being intentional and weaving this into our planning. It's not about creating extra work for you. Now, I know what you're thinking, Lori, with all the lesson planning, with all the grading, with wrangling all of my kiddos, how am I supposed to find time to teach kindness? So today, I'm going to share 10 easy and fun ideas that you can use to teach kindness in your classroom that don't require extra time. You're going to be weaving this in, like I mentioned before, into what you're already doing. So these ideas require minimal prep. They're perfect for elementary students. So let's jump in. Okay, so first up is kindness coupons. And if you have never used these with your kids, this is a perfect opportunity to try it out this month. So these are just basically little paper coupons that you can hand out whenever you catch your students doing something kind. Maybe it's holding the door, maybe it's sharing supplies, maybe it's saying something sweet to a classmate. So here's how this works. You just create simple coupons that say, caught you being kind or something like that. And then you hand them out when you see like little instances. Have kids print their name on the back of their coupon and put it into a lottery draw. So you can draw a few names at the end of every day or every Friday, whatever you want to do. It works even better when you make the reward something like seasonal, like strawberry scented Valentine's Day stickers or mini erasers or water bottle stickers. You know your students best, so you can decide what they love or ask them what they love as a little acknowledgement if their name is drawn. Now, the best part of this is you can give as many as you want. Kids can get their names in there as many times as they want, and you can or as they earn, and you can put them on a lanyard. I've often done this before when I want to give out coupons. I get myself a lanyard and I tuck a ton of coupons in there. And that way, when I'm walking around the classroom, when I'm doing things, I always have them and I can just hand them out and give them to kids and say, I'm so proud of you, kiddo. Thank you so much for being kind, right? So simple, so easy, spreads the positivity, spreads the love. And as I always say, finding the positive is encouraging them to keep doing more of that. The second idea I love to promote kindness among my students is the compliment chain. And this is so fun and so visual. So how it works is each time a student gives a heartfelt compliment to someone, they write it on a colorful strip of paper. So they're going to say it to their friend and then they're going to write it down. And then you link the strips together to create a paper chain that keeps growing throughout the year. And it's really cool that you can have the students actually read their compliments before they put them up at the end of each day. So for example, throughout the day, as students are giving compliments to each other, they can write them down and share them with their friends and then put them all in one place. And at the end of the day, share them, like read them out loud and share, have the students give compliments to each other. And then you have the students add them to the chain and let it grow throughout the year. And it's this visual reminder of all of the kindness that kids are giving to each other. Hang it in your classroom and literally watch that kindness chain grow throughout the year. It's so cool. So for example, if a student says, I love how you always let me borrow your pencils, they write that down. They also tell that student, I love how you always let me borrow your pencils. And then at the end of the day, have them tell the whole class, I love how Carly always lets me borrow her pencils. And then again, add it to the chain at the end of the day and just watch how much it changes the tone of your classroom. Kids start wanting to do it more and more. The third idea that I've seen that is so cute is random acts of kindness bingo. Who doesn't love bingo, right? So all you do is create a bingo card filled with random acts of kindness, like helped a friend, shared a toy, or cleaned up without being asked, whatever is practical in your classroom. And then students mark off a square when they complete an act of kindness. Once they get a bingo, we celebrate with a simple prize or recognition in class. And you can reuse the cards all year, like changing the acts of kindness based on your classroom needs, what you really want to promote among your students. And if you're part of the Classroom Management Club, you get a teacher cheat sheet of 50 random acts of kindness for kids to make creating your bingo cards a piece of cake. You can just literally download a free bingo card or a blank bingo card from Canva and add in any ideas that you want to promote in your classroom. Number 4, I love this one, the kindness jar. This idea is so simple but super effective. So just set up a jar in your classroom and label it kindness jar. And when students see someone being kind, they write it down on a small slip of paper and drop it into the jar, kind of like the kindness coupons. But this way it's like student generated. So they write it down and they drop it in the jar. So maybe they write, Jamie, help me tie my shoe, or Emily, let me go first in line, whatever it is. And at the end of the week, you just read some of the notes out loud to celebrate those moments. You could even have your students give a standing ovation for each student as they're acknowledged. My students loved it when we did that, but standing up and really acknowledging acts of kindness helps again to encourage your students to want to do more of that. Number 5, this one might be my favorite because it's so easy to set up, but it's the kindness post-it wall. So basically just you dedicate a wall or a bulletin board to kindness, and then you give students post-it notes and ask them to write something kind about their classmates. And then you stick them up on the wall for everyone to see. And you could combine this with your morning work for each day this month, or make this as part of your lunch or end of the day routine to get kids into the habit of acknowledging each other. So for example, just simple things like "you're a great artist," or "I love how you always smile in the morning." Make sure students actually write the names though. Like, "I love how Jason is a great artist," or "I love how Stephanie always smiles in the morning," right? Whatever it is. It's a very sweet and easy way to brighten up your classroom and really help build community and relationships between your students. And of course, you can also add a sticky note as well each day, acknowledging a student every day. And don't let the idea of expensive sticky notes hold you back. Just cut up pieces of colorful blank paper, whatever goes with your classroom theme, with a small piece of tape, and that does the trick just as well. Okay, number 6, this is a simple one that we often forget about, but never underestimate the power of a good book. Read alouds are a fantastic way to spark discussions about kindness, and they're a really powerful way to teach. So some favorites you might know: "Have you filled a bucket today?" That isn't just for the beginning of the school year. You can use that any time in the year. "Kindness is my superpower." "Those Shoes" by Mary Beth Boltz. There's just so many good ones. So after reading any of these books, just ask your students to share their favorite act of kindness from the book and challenge them to do something similar that day. It's such a subtle way to remind students that they get to choose to be kind. I also have a complete list of 21 children's books that teach diversity and compassion that I'll link to in the show notes for you if you're like, "I'm not sure what books to use." Okay, number 7 is really cute. It kind of adds a little paparazzi fun to your classroom, but in a good way. And we can call it kindness caught on camera. That's what I'm calling this one. Okay, so basically all you do is take a picture, just take a quick picture with your iPhone of a student when you catch them doing something kind, and then display it on a special bulletin board with a caption like "kindness caught in action," right? So similar to the previous idea with the bulletin board, but just a bit of a twist because of the visual element. You could say, "Here's Maya sharing her crayons with Leo." Just kids love seeing themselves celebrated. It's really cute. Now, number 8, you can also switch things up with a little bit of mystery and fun by introducing something that I call the kindness detective game. So here's how it works. Basically, all you do is each day you secretly assign 1 or 2 students to be kindness detectives. So their job is to observe their classmates throughout the day and catch someone being kind. And I love this because it puts a responsibility on the students, and they're the ones looking for the positive and the good in each other, right? And then at the end of the day, the detectives report what they've observed. So for example, a detective might report, "I saw Ava helping Ryan clean up his art supplies," or "Ben shared his snack with Claire." And you can make it extra fun by giving your detectives little detective hats or badges to wear. Kids like the sense of responsibility, and it really encourages them to notice kindness in others and keep acknowledging kindness in others. And you could switch up your kindness detective every day or every week. Just during your morning meeting, you could have your first name checklist there, and you can ask for volunteers who would like to be kindness detective today, or you can just put the next person on the list and say, "Okay, you're a kindness detective today." Give them the badge, give them the hat, whatever they're going to use, little lanyard, whatever you want to use, to make them feel special and build that habit again of being positive and looking for the good in each other. Okay, number 9 is kind of like this as well. It's called the Secret Kindness Mission. Again, adds a little mystery to your classroom. Anytime you can add mystery to your classroom, you're going to win with your students. So you can give, instead of just having one kindness detective, you can have a kindness mission for the day for each student. So maybe it's say something nice to 3 classmates today. So you're challenging all of your students to say something nice to 3 classmates or help someone with their work. So that's the mission for the day. And at the end of the day, ask students to share if they completed their mission and what they did or who they helped. Okay, number 10 is one of my favorites. This one is creating a kindness pledge for your classroom. And what I love about this is it really encourages kindness as an overarching theme in your classroom, that this is just the way we do things. This is part of the fabric of our classroom. So how it works is you basically have your students brainstorm ways to show kindness and then turn that into a big classroom poster. So I'd put it all on a big sheet of paper. For example, we will help each other. We will use kind words, get specific, have them give examples, and then let everyone sign it or sign around the poster and hang it in your classroom somewhere where the students are going to see it, maybe on the back of your door, as a constant reminder of this is what we're doing in our classroom. This is our kindness pledge. So that's another way that you can incorporate kindness into your classroom very simply, but also give your students that daily reminder of how they can be kind to each other in our classroom. So we've talked about a lot of practical and easy ways that you can encourage kindness among students in your classroom. So hopefully you've picked up one or two that you're like, ooh, I want to grab and go with that one in my classroom this month. But it's also really important, if we're asking students to take on this way of being in our classrooms, to remember that we need to be modeling kindness and compassion for our students if we're asking them to do this. So let's just talk about a few simple ways that you can do this, and we'll go into more depth into this next week. So first of all, it's really just about being intentional about using kind and positive language with your students, especially when you're correcting behavior. So let me give you a few examples of what I mean by that. And this is challenging to do at the beginning, but it becomes a way of being when you've done it for a little while. So instead of saying something like, stop doing that, you could instead say, maybe you could make a better choice here. What do you think you could do instead? And if you can laugh a little bit and make them realize, oh, that probably wasn't a good choice, it can be a little bit lighter and easier for students to hear you. They don't hear it as a criticism, right? Instead of just saying, be quiet, say things like, all right, let's quiet our voices so everyone can concentrate, so we don't go home with headaches today, like things like that. Just lighten it up as much as possible. Or I love how Maya is using her listening ears. Can we all do that together, please? Using please and thank you like we ask them to do. So important. Instead of just saying, hurry up, let's go. Instead of saying that and using that kind of tone, what about going, all right, we're almost ready to move on. Let's finish up together in 10 and count down from 10 to 1, right? I know you're working hard, just a little more and we'll be ready to go, right? Encouraging, calm, staying positive with them. Instead of saying, no, you can't do that. Stop doing that, which I've heard myself say, you can say, okay, that's not the best choice right now, but here's what you can do instead. Right? Or I see why you want to do that, but how about we try this for now, right? Just modeling respectful communication can help students learn how to speak kindly to others. And here's the interesting thing. I don't know if you've already heard this in your classroom, but by this point of the year, when you hear kids talking to each other, so often they take on the cadence that you have in the classroom, especially if they're teaching somebody else. It's really interesting. So if you're doing this more positively, you'll start to hear that in your students, and it's going to melt your heart when you hear your voice in positive ways when they're modeling what you do. The second thing is, it's so simple, but showing gratitude more often, making a habit of actually thanking our students for their efforts, no matter how small. Like, thank you, Mia, for helping pick up those books. Like, how hard is that, right? It's just so simple. I appreciate just stopping everything, saying, hold on, everybody. I just wanted you to know how much I appreciate how hard everyone is working today. Great job. I'm so proud of you. It takes a second, but it really helps kids to feel that it's being acknowledged. Their work is being acknowledged. And that gratitude reinforces that kindness is valued in our classroom. And it's going to encourage your students to express it more too, because it's just a common way of doing things in our classroom. And then the third thing, we hear a lot about this, but it's a little bit hard to translate into practice, and that's actively listening to your students. What does that even mean, right? So, for example, one of the rules in my classroom, I'm going to bring this home and make it a little more real for you. One of the rules in my classroom was always listen to the speaker. So I took a lot of time at the beginning of the school year, especially teaching my students what that looks like and what that feels like to listen to the speaker. So similarly, when a student talks to you, we need to show them that they matter by giving them our full attention. So if you've modeled this for your students, they're going to start doing this back for you and for each other. Not right away, it's going to take time, but it's worth investing in this effort so that you're going to start enjoying it more and more throughout the year. So, for example, what does listening look like? If I say, listen to the speaker, in our culture, and it's different in other cultures, but in our culture, it usually means that we make eye contact, we nod, we respond thoughtfully, we ask good follow-up questions. It models empathy, it models respect, and we show kids what that feels like. It feels good when we feel like someone's listening to us, right? We teach students to value others' feelings and perspectives. That feels good, to be seen and acknowledged. And the more we do this for our students, the more likely it's going to be that they're going to be willing to do this for us as well in return. So I'm going to go into more depth into the many simple ways we can model kindness for our students and be more intentional about modeling kindness for our kids in next week's episode. So be sure to tune in for that one if you'd like to hear more. So just a quick recap. Today we explored 10 ways that you can implement or encourage kindness and teach kindness in your classroom. Number 1 was kindness coupons. If you want to try that one, it's a really easy one to grab and run with. Number 2 is a compliment chain where kids write down compliments that they're giving to each other and they add to a visual chain at the end of the day. Number 3 is random acts of kindness bingo. So simple. Number 4 is the kindness jar. Number 5 was the kindness post-it wall. Number 6 was using read aloud books about kindness to help teach your kids these concepts. Number 7 was kindness caught on camera, where you take pictures of your kids and post them up. Number 8 was the kindness detective game. Number 9 was the secret kindness mission. And number 10 was the classroom kindness pledge. So again, these ideas are simple, they're fun, they're easy to implement, and they're not only going to teach your students kindness and how to be kind to each other, but it's also going to help create a positive classroom environment where everyone feels supported and loved. So thank you so much for joining me on Beginning Teacher Talk for this episode. If you loved these ideas, please share them with a fellow teacher. And if this podcast is helping you, please take a moment. It would mean the world to me if you would leave a raving review for the podcast. This is how we encourage the podcast to keep growing. This is how we help other teachers to feel less alone. And genuinely, this is how you keep me inspired and motivated to keep publishing every single week. It's been 333 weeks, and I love doing this for you. And also, it's just nice to know that somebody is listening and that it means something and is helping you. So if you would be willing to do that, it genuinely means the world to me. I'd be so grateful. All right, my friends, I hope that you have a wonderful week. Until next time, remember, just because you're a beginning elementary teacher, there is no need for you to struggle like one. Bye for now.